We are ready to take a look at a high school math assessment example, and you'll notice that the middle school and the high school ELA assessment practice tests are exactly the same, so there's just one video for that. So here will be a separate video for high school math, and students will go on the lower portion of their screen and they'll click on KCA. That will take them to the next window where they will choose the KITE client. They'll click on that and that will open up the KITE client. And right now what we're looking at is other assessments. So we'll click on that. And then our username for the high school assessments is practice.hi.demo, and the password is sake2. That information is on the PDF that I sent you in an email. And so you simply choose sign in, and then you're ready to take a practice test. You'll notice on the left is a place where you would take the test. Well, the tests aren't ready yet. That's where the real tests will be. So right now we're going to practice first, and this time we're looking at a math practice test. You'll go through the directions with the students, and I would encourage you just to project this and work through it with them. There's nothing wrong with doing that. That is just fine. Then when you're ready to move on, you click begin, and you'll see that on this practice test there are 11 questions, and those are indicated up here at the top, and you can click through those one at a time by selecting the numbers at the top of the screen, or you can simply scroll through them here at the bottom of the screen by clicking next and back. You'll notice on the left there's our cursor or our pointer, and then we have a graphing calculator. We're going to close that. We've got a regular calculator, and we've got a highlighter. And on the math tests, the highlighters are working. And so you just drag it over the area you want to highlight. If you don't want to highlight that anymore, you just go back over it with the eraser and it takes it away. There is that note option on this test. I suppose if students want to make a note for themselves or remind themselves or something, that's something that they could use. If they do want to close the note, then it does ask them, are you sure? And then again, there is the option over here to flag the test, the question, in case you want to go back to it. So let's just take a look at all the different ways the students will be able to respond. Now, we're not going to worry about whether my answers are right or wrong. We're just going to kind of push right through this, and so you can see all the different ways that students will respond to questions. This question simply asks students to put these in order from least to greatest. And so they simply drag them back and forth until they get them in the right order that they want them in from least to greatest. So that's one option of how they'll answer questions. This is a place where you sort these expressions. So you'll simply take a hold of the expression and drag it over to either it's a rational number or it's an irrational number, and they'll just do that with each of those, drag them into the place where they belong. If they want to change it, if they were rethinking that, they can move them, or they can pull them completely out and put them back and rethink it. So that's an option there as well. Here they're simply going to click, drag, and drop rational or irrational into each of these spaces next to this expression over here. And if they want to change one of them, they simply drag their other answer that they wanted to choose over the top of it, and that works out fine. In this one, they're simply going to drag the quadrant into the quadrant and label it. So a simple drag and drop there. The matching is kind of an interesting choice. You'll notice here that there's a clue that one hypotenuse will not be used. So they do sometimes have more answers than what are needed, and there's nice clues there that tell us that's the way it is. Then on the matching, they simply choose one on the left and click one on the right, and then it matches them up. And so a different way of answering those questions here, we're using a matching strategy. Here they're going to have to graph the equation, and in order to plot a dot on the graph, they just double click, and that's how you create the graph of that equation. You just double click in wherever that happens to belong. Same here in terms of the solution. Wherever your solution is, you double click it, and that's where your solution would end up being, and so that's how you place that. Here you're going to choose whether these are rational or irrational numbers. You can change your mind and it automatically shifts it back over. This is a Venn diagram where they simply choose an answer and drag it and drop it into the part of the Venn diagram where that belongs, where that coordinate pair belongs. Here they're simply going to use the numbers on their keyboard and type in a number, and that will be the answer to that question. Here it is simply going to put a check mark into the box there according to whatever their answers are, and you notice that it says select all the correct answers, so it could be all of them or just one or two, whatever they seem to think is the correct way to answer that one. Then we get all the way through it. At the end we check to make sure we have all check marks, and we end the assessment, and it asks us one more time if we're sure we want to end, and yes. So that's the high school math practice. We're going to sign out of it, we're going to close the kite, and we're good to go.